We have with us Peter Navarro, a good friend, who unfortunately is facing the wrath of this regime. And Peter Navarro, tell the American people what happened and tell why it's important to the whole country, my friend.
Honored to be with the great one, sir. This case is a landmark case. It's going to be a historical case. I think it'll get to the Supreme Court. Mark, you were in the Department of Justice for a number of years. Here's the issue as it would be framed by the Supreme Court. Can the legislative branch, the U.S. Congress in particular, compel a senior White House advisor, an alter ego of the president, to testify before Congress? Now, within the Department of Justice, you may have seen these memos because there's plenty of them. For over 50 years, the Department of Justice says, no, you can't do that. And presidents since George Washington have exerted executive privilege. And so that's what's at stake here. And executive privilege is important because, as the Supreme Court has ruled, and OLC in the Department of Justice has said, it's important for confidential decision-making to take place in the White House. And at the root of that, Mark, is the constitutional separation of powers between the legislative and executive branches. So that's what this case is about. And what's unique about this, Mark, is I am literally the first senior White House advisor in the history of our republic to be charged with this alleged crime. And what it symbolizes to me, and I hope to your listeners, is that it's the poster child for the weaponization, the partisan weaponization of the House and the Department of Justice by the Biden regime and the Democrats for use to punish political rivals. So I'm standing tall on this. I'm standing on principle. We lost the case at the district court. But what we did was a beautiful job in laying the groundwork for the appeals process. And what was so interesting, Mark, so interesting to me going in, because I've never gone through this stuff before. It's like expensive, it's grueling. It's like this judge, I go in, I've got 8 different defenses possible.
Who's the judge?
Including, I don't want to criticize the judge. Okay,
I'll look it up.
Ahmed Mehta, okay?
I know who he is.
The point gets, he did what he believed was right, but one of the things he did believe, which is interesting, and he said it in court, is he believed that I believed I was doing the right thing, okay? Which is huge in and of itself for the appeal. But the point I want to make here is, and for anybody who's got to ever go to court, it's like I had 8 possible defenses, including the most important one on executive privilege. By the time the case went to the jury, I had none. I had been stripped of that before it even got to the jury. So by the time it got to the jury, it was a foregone conclusion pro forma. We had one last defense, and the worst part of that was the prosecution played dirty the whole time because they literally, Mark, they literally gave the same opening statement that they gave in the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys trial as if this were about January 6th, when in fact it was not about January 6th at all. It was about a contempt of Congress charge. So this case, if this is not overturned on appeal and go to the Supreme Court, settle the law on this issue, Mark, executive privilege, as it was conceived by George Washington and embodied in the Constitution, is dead. And that's bad for this country.
And didn't they, Peter Navarro, really, they were trying to go through the back door to violate separation of powers and executive privilege by going after one of Trump's top staffers. Yeah. So they were trying to go through the back door, get the information, get what was discussed by going after you. And it's a committee of Congress. It's not even a legal case that's taking place with somebody's liberty other than your own, but somebody else's liberty at stake.
There are 2 years of prison time, Mark, to be clear. And look, here's the way the constitutional separation of powers is supposed to work. The third branch is the judicial branch. The judicial branch has the power to investigate for criminal purposes, to punish. Okay? Legislative branch doesn't have that. All they're supposed to do is to be able to gather information to help them change laws, period, full stop. From the get-go, that friggin' J6 committee was a partisan committee consisting of 7 Democrats, every one of whom had led the first 2 impeachments of President Trump, and then the 2 rogue rhinos, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, who hated Trump and wanted to take him down. And from the get-go, Mark, from the get-go, that committee was trying to build a criminal case against Trump. And you can't make this up, Mark. The day I went in there for the first day of court, in the very next courtroom, Trump's defense team was in there processing the indictment.
Peter Navarro, remind people of how you were initially arrested and how they tried to humiliate you. The cameras were there because you're standing up for your constitutional rights. You didn't commit any violent acts. You didn't do anything of that sort. You're just saying, hey, look, I interpret the Constitution from your perspective, of course, the right way, and I agree with you. How did they arrest you?
Fascinating story. On June 1st, I called Elizabeth Alloy, sent her a lengthy email, and told her, hey, look, please call my lawyer. Please contact President Trump. I'm trying to work this out. I'm between a rock and a hard place.
Who is that?
It's not black privilege away. Elizabeth Alloy. She was the person in charge of the case. She was one of the prosecuting attorneys in the trial. Okay? She stonewalled the whole thing, never called my attorney, which was prosecutorial misconduct, never got in touch with Trump. I talked to the FBI agent who had served me with a subpoena twice for more than 20 minutes. I said, hey, and I live right across the street from the FBI, Mark. Literally. I can see it right now as I'm doing the thing. I said, hey, look, whatever you need, just let me know, right? It's crickets from them. I go out with my significant other, my beautiful fiance, love her dearly. We'd go out there, and we're getting ready to go to Nashville to do Huckabee's show. And I get in the gangway, and 5 armed FBI agents descend on me. They put me in handcuffs. I wind up in the basement of the D.C. jail in leg irons and strip searched in the same cell, and they were fond of telling me, as John Hinckley Jr. And it was just it was like, I got a lot in common with President Trump. Like the analogy there is they went after him in the dead of night at Mar-a-Lago. It's crazy stuff. And so began my journey. And I'd be remiss in letting your listeners know. I mean, this is part of the lawfare they're waging against us, weaponizing the Justice Department. And even though they can't put us in prison, they want to bankrupt us. I'm already, Mark, think about this now. This is a misdemeanor, okay? Yeah, it has 2 years imprisonment, but it's a misdemeanor. I'm already in over $500,000.
Good God.
And because I'm going to appeal this, and it's going to be another $1 million. And you add that up across people like Mike Flynn and John Eastman and Jeff Clark. I mean, it's a lot of money. So I have a defense fund. It's defendpeter.com. Defendpeter.com. If anybody out there want to fight this madness, help a brother out. But I'm standing up tall, strong, for an important constitutional principle. And we cannot let these bastards take our Constitution down and take Donald Trump down. Can't happen, sir.
No, I want to thank you. I know it seems very lonely out there, but there are many tens of millions of people who understand this, and they needed to hear from you. It's defendpeter.com, defendpeter.com. Let's help him out, folks. All he wants is the ability to fight in court. He's never lifted a finger against anybody, didn't break any government property, didn't even go into a government building without authorization. He raised constitutional objections to this committee, this January 6th Rump committee. And the other thing, Peter, is it's not like they held everybody in contempt. They held certain people in contempt.
See, that's the beautiful thing about this. Among other things, I'm the first guy that ever got charged. There were 2 other folks but one of them, a dear friend, Dan Scavino. I love the guy. Served with him for years in the White House. And Mark Meadows, a former chief of staff. Now, the three of us were charged with contempt. We all engage in the same alleged behavior in failing to comply with their subpoena. But I'm the only guy they picked out and picked on. And that was like, it was a poster child of selective prosecution. But the judge ruled that one out and wouldn't allow us to do the discovery we needed to address any concerns he had, although we had what you and I would call a colorable claim. I mean, think about that. So I look, this case is already a landmark. And, I mean, look, you go down my tombstone. The only guy who ever got charged for an alleged crime that the Department of Justice itself said wasn't a crime. Mm-hmm. Go figure. Yeah. Democracy, rest in peace. Justice, rest in peace.
I tell you.
Nuts.
When is this judge going to sentence? Do you know?
Yes, January, and then we hope he'll let us stay out on bail while we're able to go through the appeals process. And look, this, as I said earlier, my legal team is just they're beautiful. The guys who are in charge are the finest legal scholars on this whole issue of executive privilege and the interplay between the legislative and executive branches. And what we've done, Mark, beautifully during the course of the trial is we've lost and let them whittle away defense after defense. We've been able to set basically the strongest possible appeal. I'll tell you one other thing that's so unique about this. And this is why I've already got a victory in this case, and it's a big one, Mark, a big one. The judge ruled that executive privilege, properly asserted, insulates people like me from testifying before Congress. So going forward, he's basically set law, at least the district level, that says I was in the right. Where he had a quarrel with me was the argument that somehow the privilege hadn't been properly invoked, which was, I mean, we had an evidentiary hearing, Mark. We had 5 phone calls with the president, a personal visit to Mar-a-Lago, countless emails and texts and phone calls with his aides, and he came away saying, well, I don't know, that's not quite good enough. Mm-hmm. So the point is, the other thing that the judge did beautifully in terms of helping us with the appeal is he repeatedly noted that there were many open questions, which is a code word for a case of first impressions. There's so many. Is the privilege presumptive, Mark? I mean, if President Trump asserted the privilege for every single senior aide, why doesn't that include me? How can that possibly be when, in fact, he asserted it for me as well? So we're going to win this appeal, but the point is that this case is not about Peter Navarro. The United States v. Peter Navarro is about the constitutional separation of powers and the importance of executive privilege and executive decision-making. And if I win, the country wins, the Constitution wins, and this country wins.
All right, brother. God bless you. We want to have you back.
God bless you, sir. You get this better than anybody because you've been in the belly of that beast. And as I stand here in my apartment, I'm looking right at the FBI and across the street at the building. And it's kind of ironic that the 2 people trying to put me in prison I can see from my front door.
It's unbelievable. All right, brother. DefendPeter.com. That's the site, folks. Let's help him out. DefendPeter.com. And you guys take care of yourself. God bless you, Peter.
You stay strong too, brother.
All right. Take care of yourself. Just terrible.